right.
Good evening, welcome to the Football Weekly with your hosts Ali and Mark, the Football Gurus. We've got Casper and Gary on tonight. So Casper, been on quite a few weeks now. Great to have you back. Sans moustache, I notice.
Got rid of it. Clean shaven.
Clean shaven. Handlebars all gone. And Gary, a Liverpool fan. I'm guessing from your accent, from Falmouth.
And definitely not a Liverpool fan.
Whoa! Who mentioned that?
He's got a bite in the first minute. I like that. Don't worry, I'll come back and still win, so it's all
right. Gary, great to have you. Great to have you on the show, and looking forward to chatting about yesterday's game and everything else. So Gary is an amateur referee. Is that the
grassroots referee? Coach as well with Helston and Plymouth Argyle and my boys' football team. So, a lot of coaching, a lot of refereeing. Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, brilliant. We went to a training session with Helston once, didn't we, Mark? Years and years ago.
Yes, Gary, the story is our friend Chris Martin, who sometimes hides in the chat on here, but he's not. He literally popped his shoulder out of his skin while we were just fucking around playing a bit of football, and he was in goal. He'll appreciate me saying it just like that. And his shoulder, he'll appreciate that as well. Literally popped out of its skin in a meaningless kick around, and he was walking. It's still not really right now. It still looks a bit like Nessie on his shoulder. But that we did have a couple of Helston wanted to sign us. Well, what was it, Ali? Like £200 a game to stay away, and we took it. Yeah,
what I remember, Mark, is we went to trial for the thirds, and then they wanted to put us in the seconds, not the first, though.
Yeah, £200 to stay away. I took it. It's great.
And then I think the reason I didn't go back was Drax driving more than anything.
Yeah, we got there in about 2 minutes.
Absolutely shit myself.
Yeah, we got there in 2 minutes. I've been to Helston a few times. Had a few sessions over there. It's good. Good setup.
All right, Mark, would you like to kick us off with a topic then?
Do TV companies take, and managing directors, whoever negotiates these stupid kickoffs, and I'm not even talking about Liverpool, I'm talking like United have been stitched up a few times, Spurs have been stitched up a few times. Surely they have to, especially in a COVID condensed season, do they have to look at who's playing when, in what competitions? Do TV companies and managing directors take players for granted? I think they do, personally. What do you guys think?
I'll go first.
Because West Ham are in absolutely no competitions apart from the Energy Cup drink and what?
The Betway Cup.
Little old West Ham.
Yeah, every year we lose that just before the season starts to some of the foreign team that's also sponsored by Betway.
Got the right idea.
Bournemouth this year beat us. It's slightly complex, isn't it? Because you've got two sets of stakeholders there. You've got the TV companies that want as many people to watch at their peak times as possible, and then you've got the football clubs that also want that, but have to toe. There's a diplomacy they have to play with the TV companies as well. So there is. Yeah, for me, supporting I'll get it in early, Mark. Supporting a smaller team that isn't in Europe every year or any year. There's a slight obligation for me for, we're talking about 5 substitutes quite a lot. That's something that we should be just allowing in a way to allow the bigger teams that play more games, more depth.
Yeah,
I think that's perfectly fair for and as long as it applies to all clubs, obviously. But the TV rights thing, it's kind of, I think for the TV companies, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Our football clubs are the richest, Premier League clubs are the richest clubs in the world because they get so much TV revenue. and then they turn around and moan about the fixture list. Well, go out and buy some more players. Make sure you've all got 25 players in your first team squad. Make sure you've got loads of kids in your academies that can come through when you get injuries, so on and so forth. And it would be less of an issue. I just before I opened the forum to everyone else, it's just worth mentioning as well that we also need to, when all our players are getting injured as a result of this, we need to look at what each club's doing on the training grounds as well. Because what you're tending to find is some players get some teams get loads of injuries and other teams aren't. We've had kind of 2 first team players injured all season this season. Yeah, we haven't got a European campaign, so don't get me wrong. We haven't got the challenges that, say, a Liverpool have got that have just been playing constantly for months and months and months. But there is something to be said for that, I think.
I think the whole 5 sub, we could combine this with 5 subs. It kind of marries up. I think the 5 sub rules is fine if 2 of the subs have to be on the 21s.
Yeah.
We go back to Rashford, Gary, when Martial got injured in the warm up for Rashford's debut, and what happened next? Bang, 2 goals. Rashford's off and running. Harry Kane, when Soldado got injured, exactly the same situation. You could say Curtis Jones with Naby Keita now. Look at Curtis Jones starting every game for Liverpool because Naby Keita is made of candy floss. So I think England would find so many young players if they were just given a chance. If they come on for the last 10 minutes, whack, goal, suddenly they're off and running like Rashford was when Martial got injured. I don't see why the Champions League teams or Europa League teams, for instance, we had that situation where Liverpool kicked off, or I think it was United as well, one week, kicked off at 12:30, and then we had 2 games at 8 o'clock on a Sunday. Why, in hindsight, couldn't have... And there was no Champions League game the following week. So why couldn't the Champions League teams have had those late Sunday evening kickoffs?
That's why I mentioned the viewing figures, Mark, because that's what it's about. More people watch at 12:30 on a Saturday than watch at 8 o'clock on a Sunday.
So?
And the whole thing, I think Lineker came out and said it was that more people want to watch Liverpool on a Saturday at 12:30 than any other team, so they do tend to get pushed towards that slot a bit more.
Because of the North American market.
Yeah, it could be.
Well, there is that. There's the global piece about what time that is, across the world, because Premier League's watched everywhere.
And you're absolutely right about the. Gary, what do you think, mate?
Personally, I think the biggest problem with the fixturing is the Premier League. I don't think it's even the TV companies. The fact the Premier League are happy to farm the games out to the highest bidder and follow their rules is a little bit ridiculous.
Absolutely. Why can someone in China watch a Premiership game at 3 o'clock and someone in England can't watch a Premiership game at 3 o'clock? It's just bizarre, isn't it? Sorry, Gary, I'll cut you off.
Me, personally, I don't see a massive problem playing 3 days 3 days after the last game. Play Wednesday, play Saturday. That's fine. They're going to train. They're going to play Wednesday. They're going to train light training Thursday, full day training on Friday, and then they're going to play Saturday. So they would do that all through Christmas. They'll do that toward the end of the year. And from my own experience, players like playing, and the injuries need to be managed better by the coaching staff, not crying about TV scheduling. Yeah, it's not great. You play Wednesday evening and you're made to play Saturday lunchtime. Yeah, you've got 2 days to prep for it, but that's also 2 days worth of rest.
I absolutely agree. Yeah.
I think doesn't the issue, because the reason that Jurgen's quite upfront about this is because he's saying that clubs, not just in Liverpool but club physicians, etc., are saying that the recovery time's not great enough after European games. I think that's given the additional travel, the sometimes overnight as it take place. So it's not always a pure 2 days as if it was Wednesday in the Premier League, Saturday in the Premier League. There's more in play than that for the players, meaning that they're getting less time to train, less time to recover between that Wednesday and Saturday games.
You're absolutely right, Al. Buy more players, or not buy more players, but give more players a chance. And that's where the whole under 21, 2 of the subs have to be under 21 rule would come in. And to be honest, Gary, you're absolutely right. Jurgen Klopp obviously demands a lot of his players on the pitch, and I think that probably carries on into training. So maybe he's got to modify. I'm not saying any of the injuries we've suffered this year, especially Virgil and Joe Gomez, have been his fault, because they haven't. And Thiago, that wasn't his fault either. but maybe he could tone it down a little bit demand-wise in training. But that's who he is. That's his philosophy.
If you're looking at like an individual club, like let's say Liverpool or Man United, Liverpool have had loads of injuries because maybe the way they play, or maybe just the players are tired and injuries happen. It does happen.
Uh-huh.
No, Van Dijk injury was a freak. It's not like he landed funny, someone went through him.
And Thiago.
Yeah, and Chelsea have played the same amount of games in the same sort of time scale, and they've only had one or two minor injuries that have been worked through and they're fine. So is it down to the TV? Yeah, it doesn't help. Completely doesn't help. But injuries happen, and they need to be managed a little bit better in their clubs.
What about as a Leicester? Still in Europa League, aren't you, Casper? Leicester?
League, yeah.
Yeah. Just hanging on.
So you haven't got the biggest squad in the world, but you don't seem to have too many injuries. I know someone pulled it up the other day. I can't remember.
They've got a few, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a few. We've got and Diddy came back today. For the first time in a while. And Pereira, he's been missing, but he came back. I mean, I think Leicester are one of the few teams that've got a full squad, and they've got quite a strong under-23s as well. To be honest, your original question was about like the speed of games coming to teams and the kickoff times. You know, if you ignore the North American market, do you really think the players will get paid as much? Do you really think we'll have the new stadiums? Do you really think we'll have all the glitz and the glamour? You know, I mean, your club's owned by North American. I mean,
yeah.
Manchester United, you're owned by a North American. Do you really think you've got any chance of not satisfying that market and the advertising revenue that brings into those sports channels? Prime, we're watching Prime, Liverpool on Prime. You know, that's a North American company.
Good point.
It's ridiculous if people think that you're not going to be able to. You're going to restrict Americans and Canadians from watching live sport when it's comfortable for them. So let's say California, that's like early evening for them. So that's prime time for walking into the pub, as Americans do, getting a beer and watching the sports. So that's why it's at half 12. It's all factored in.
We were talking, weren't we? We were talking last week about during the days of Zidane and Figo, Ronaldo, how I maybe took them for granted at the time, and how there aren't many world-class, genuine future Hall of Famer, world-class talent out there at the moment, apart from Ronaldo and Messi, obviously. Do you think that maybe has something to do with the amount of football players are playing now and their potential maybe gets a bit curtailed by injuries, or do you think that's just it's just not a factor?
I think it's more of a pressure to succeed at the elite clubs. You know, the demand to stay in the Premier League or the demand to stay in the Bundesliga and not getting relegated. It's because of the money from these clubs, from the TV deals and prize money going up in all the leagues. That's why maybe there's a reduction in the amount of elite players coming through from the youth setup.
And I'm glad we got you on this, Gary. Maverick players who can change games. We've talked in previous episodes about, and because you're on, we can go back to it. The coaching of Maverick players. Do they get overcoached? Say if you had a lad in your team that was brilliant going forward, he wasn't cocky and arrogant. He was just really, really good at opening teams up, and he had all the flair, a bit like Shaqiri, I suppose. Doesn't run around much, but he's got that past. He's got that bit of talent when he really doesn't run around, does he, Shaqiri? He doesn't. He doesn't. Really he's got that ability to make like or Fernandez,
the ultimate player.
But how would you coach that personally? Would you just say, tell you what, just play your game? Work a bit for the team if you can, but just play your game. Get out there and express yourself. Or would you try and some coaches, I believe, I'm not saying you do, obviously, I'm just saying overcoach. Instead of trying to just let the talent run with it, and then try and adjust certain things like work ethic and attitude. How do you coach exceptional? How would you coach exceptional talent as a coach yourself?
You focus on their strengths.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're picking on a player with creative skills and they're exceptional at it, let's pick up someone like Jadon Sancho, for instance. That's just as an example. Great example. Creative players, creates goals, scores goals, doesn't track back so much, but does his work in the final third where you want him to be working. So if you want a player to create things, you don't want them tracking back. You don't want them burning themselves out in the first 45 minutes. The way I deal with players like that, I encourage the creativity and set the team up behind them or around them.
Exactly.
To allow you have to allow for creativity. Otherwise, you're going to stifle the player. And that if you're going to look at a young player, you'll completely lose that sort of development phase, and they'll just go into themselves, and you lose the creativity just because someone's shouting they need to track back. When no, you want them in an area where it could be dangerous, not on the edge of their own 18-yard box.
Next question.
Yeah.
Do you think it's an English thing is to go the other way against that? Whereas if you look at the likes of Brazil, you set up, they're just encouraged to be themselves, get on the ball, make stuff happen. Do you think this country needs to rethink its coaching of flair players?
From doing my coaching badges, they already have.
They have. Okay, good. That's good. That's good to hear.
If you look at, I did my coaching badges. I started the first one, the level 1. I did that 4 or 5 years ago. The New England DNA they call it, the way they want the England players to play and the coaches to coach, is about the player. It's encouraging the player to be the best player they can be. Now, if you've got a lad who loves tackling, give him a spell up front, just so he can play in different positions, so he might find one he loves. But if he loves tackling, then encourage the tackling, encourage the defending, and vice versa. If you've got an attacking player and he wants to pick the ball up and run with it, encourage it, but try and add to his game and help with the decision making rather than sort of trying to cut one of his legs off to try and do different work. So with the England coaching, they have adjusted it from my own personal experience.
Oh, good. That is good.
It's been adjusted, and the coaches are being told to focus on the player rather than sort of the team. The needs of the team can be done by encouraging players to do something else.
Because I only asked because if you remember, Ali, we were talking about Joe Cole, and I love watching Joe Cole as a teenager. I thought, here we go, and then so I can't. And Ali always corrects me. I can't remember which manager beat it out of him. I think he gave the ball away for a goal in an FA Cup final, doing a Cruyff turn on the box, and then suddenly just seemed to knock his confidence a bit. And then whoever his manager at the time, do you remember Joe Cole was brilliant.
It was towards the end of his time at Chelsea, so he was allowed to flourish a bit first, and he was also allowed to flourish under Sven when he played for England as well. So he had to stay in position, but that was the way that England was set up for a long time. But certainly at club level, he was afforded creative play. He's one of those guys. He liked to track back anyway, and he liked a good tackle. So, but his skill lay in the dribble, didn't it?
Oh, he's unbelievable as a teenager. He was just fantastic.
But just added to what Gary said, it's not. We all need to be aware really that the England setup isn't a fly by night thing. We're kind of 10, 12 years into a project here. Where that had to start at grassroots football with the kids, and it did, and so the way that kids play football now is fundamentally different to what was happening 12, 16, 18 years ago. Even down to not playing on full-size pitches for such a long time, but what they're doing on the training grounds, what they're doing on match days is different. They're being encouraged to be creative on their way up now, and what we're not seeing, we're saying, will there ever be another Messi, another Ronaldo, two of the greatest footballers ever to grace the earth, and we're missing how much creative young kids have come out in the last 3-4 years. They're queuing up to get in the England squad at the moment. We've got so many creative kids. They're having to go abroad to get games, to start games for top sides. So for me, I'm very optimistic about this because what I'm seeing is we're reaping the fruits of the cultural investment in football from the start of this current era under Brookin and Southgate when he was the youth manager. We're starting to see the really good side. The plan was always, I might get the year wrong here because COVID's ruined everything. Is it World Cup 22?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the plan was to aim to win World Cup 22. The whole grassroots bit of starting with the kids was to, or to get to a final, or a semi-final by 22. And we did that at the last World Cup with a bit of luck, but you always need a bit of luck in competitions anyway, don't you? So and as much as we like to deride the team and Southgate's tactics, this, that, the other, very different brand of football to what we were playing a generation ago. Very different.
Casper, one more, just briefly. And obviously, we want to hear what you've got to say, Casper, because Gary Casper's son is in Leicester City's academy. And I completely forgot what I was going to say. Go on, Casper.
No, I was just going to ask Gary a quick question. I think you're absolutely right, and the most talented dribblers, let's say, who can dribble between the lines, are what clubs want, and it's what the country wants. The Paul Gascoignes of this world, who pick up the ball anywhere in the pitch, can dribble through, say, 2 or 3 lines. Sometimes, at an early age, they don't make very good decisions, but a play like that can destabilise a team, or having a play like that as your focus can mean that other players who are passers of the ball or tacklers, as you say, don't get as much time because it's all through one player. But what I have seen is players like that rotated through different age groups, so it means that gifted player who can dribble between the lines gets to experience different pressures and different tempos because of the different. So not just playing up, but playing down as well. But it means the team that he's with actually get to play a different brand of football when that dribbler isn't in the team. And I think that's amazing. I think that's absolutely refreshing because it brings on the dribbler. It also allows the team that he plays with to play a more passing or maybe put on a defensive block, or it allows them to explore different tactics. So I agree with Ali that youth development is so fundamentally different from when if you're a dribbler, your coach would go, "Oi, you're on 2 touch, mate," and you would go, "Oh God." I'm not saying I was a great dribbler, but I was put on 2 touch a lot.
He was quite a good dribbler in more than one way.
So the reason I'm asking all these is this new rule that Gary as well, you might be interested. This new rule coming in January: no under 18s from in Europe can now sign for Premier League clubs. Personally, I think that's brilliant. I think that'll give us so much. As you said, there's so much talent in this country that needs a chance. And I listed examples of players that sat on a bench until a so-called big-name foreign player got injured. What do you think of this new rule, lads? This new youth
create an unlevel playing field, isn't it? I think we were talking about this on Messenger this week, and Casper made the point that several of the big clubs, in preparation for this, have set up proxy youth teams in Europe already to get to work around this. So the rich clubs are going to be fine because they'll just carry on doing what they're doing right now anyway. So if you look into the clubs with setups in Belgium and Holland, for example, I think there's some in Spain is there. Wolves have probably got one in Portugal, I imagine, so on and so forth. I think that maybe I asked the question because I wasn't really sure how many teams do have it in total. I only know that my own doesn't because they haven't got a scout outside of East London, let alone anywhere else in the continent. But I imagine there must be half the Premier League don't have such a system in place at least. So this is going to exacerbate the problem for those teams, but not really cause a problem for the bigger teams, in my eyes.
United use Royal Antwerp, don't they, Gary? They've always had a relationship there, haven't they, with Royal Antwerp?
Yeah, there's always been something over there.
I don't think we've got one. He likes to send players to Germany, maybe Mainz. He sent a couple of players to Mainz, but I don't think we've got. Oh fuck me, money! What a miss. I don't think we've got a feeder club as such. I think he just sends our players to Germany, young players to Germany for like Nat Phillips. He played a season in 2nd division in Germany, but I don't think we've got a feeder club as such.
What's your view, Cas?
Leicester's got Leuven.
Say again?
Leicester have a club. I think it's Leuven, where basically Stella beers brewed.
Good choice.
In Belgium, I think they were like a second tier, second division club, and they might have been promoted. I can't remember. But I think Pearson, when he got sacked, that's where he went.
Oh, really?
Ah,
yeah.
Where's Alan Pardew? Alan Pardew's somewhere weird now as well, isn't he? He's somewhere in like SKA Sofia or something, isn't he? sure he's a director of football somewhere weird now, or old Alan Pardew.
Ego.
Ali, what's your next subject?
Old Ego FC. Just quick one to say on Pardew. His reputation as West Ham manager, I don't know what it was like at other clubs, where he thought he was like a global superstar and everything was...
He dances like
there was no democracy under Pardew, let's put it that way. All right, I'll start with my most controversial point, and it's a question for you, Gary. On the basis of the game yesterday, what are Man United without not Pogba? What are Man United without Rashford and Fernandes? Because we saw a real game of two halves yesterday that completely turned on its head when your two best players came on.
And
oh, you want me to talk about the ball that went out of play? That's
4 feet out of play. That changed the game.
What I'll do,
I'm sick of that now.
I think about the ball out of play, and then I'll move on to Rashford and Fernandes.
And by the way, for the record, I think they were absolutely right, Ali. They were both, and Rashford especially, was brilliant yesterday. Anyway, sorry, Gary, carry on.
Yeah, so the ball out of play, the linesman's at a bright mare. Normally, I would try to defend any referee, but he's facing down the pitch. The ball's coming at him. The only thing he can be doing is looking for an offside, thinking it's gone long. Is anyone offside in that split second? And when he's looked back, the ball's really back in play.
It goes so far out. Moyes is like this.
Yeah, so he's at the mare there, to be fair. And when they start coming up with the screens, like look at there's no VAR on a touchline. Let's be honest.
I think the point though is you didn't need it, Gary. You didn't need a line going up. When he kicked it, it was clear to anyone watching it that it had gone out. It was physically impossible to kick the ball in that way and it not to leave the pitch and then land on it, land as it did. We could all see it curve off, leave the pitch, and then curve back on.
Yeah,
VAR wasn't required except to say, "Oh yeah, that did go out." We didn't need a line, from what I could see. I thought I was going crazy, to be honest, but.
The ball was a good. I think I've seen something on Twitter today, and they've done a computer image graphic of it.
Yeah.
With a big line coming up, and you could probably put 2 more footballs inside that one, and still been off the pitch. So I think the assistant's just not been looking in the right place because he's looking for something else.
Yeah. It was a howler. It was a howler, wasn't it? That's that really.
Yeah, 100%. He should have gone back out in the change rooms after the game and gone to the other referees. Sorry, lads. But yeah, now back to the point about Fernandes and Rashford. Personally, Bruno makes the team tick, but because they rely on him, he's come in. He's a breath of fresh air. He's an absolute leader on and off the pitch. There was reports a few weeks back about after a bad game, he's gone to the changing room, lost his head, and started ranting at everybody. I love that.
I love that.
The fact he's sat on the bench was probably to rest him, thinking, Pogba's back. We should be able to.
It's only West Ham.
Have you trust the most expensive player in the world when he was bought? But I don't think United rely solely on those 2 players. Personally, if you look at yesterday's game, they came on and changed the game 100%. But the 4 games previous to that, they both started and we were still losing at halftime and still come back and won. So I think those 2 changed the game, and for all Wally's faults that everyone points out in the papers, he seems to be able to adjust his tactics to cope with the team he's seen in front of him. Now, whether he can't get, obviously not getting scouted into the grounds to watch teams play like he would have done before, so he's missing out on that little. There's only so much you can see on the TV. At half time, they've sat down and looked at him and gone, well, if we do this, we will beat this team now. So I think when you're saying that United rely on those 2, maybe a bit harsh on the rest of the squad, but they definitely did make a massive difference when they came on yesterday.
Yeah, Rashford, in that form, Rashford is one of the best young players in the world. There isn't really a limit to Rashford's potential when he plays like that. He just took the game by the bollocks, and he literally just ran at West Ham, didn't he? He just ran at them, and it was direct, it was aggressive, and he just ran.
So there's something, West Ham need to take their share of the blame for that because they dominated so much in the first half. They were playing a more expansive game than we normally do. In so much as we were pushing higher at the field than we normally do, trying to keep possession a lot, and that towards the end of the first half in particular, and that rolled into the start of the second half and up into the goal. At the point it's 1-1, and United have that momentum. Normally, what Moyes would do, or until we'd scored the first goal, is play deep and hit on the counter attack. And we didn't do that at 1-1, and then they got hit twice quickly, and our defence looked a mess. But we left loads of space for Rashford to exploit. Again, it wasn't just a goal. It happened like 3 or 4 times in 10 minutes where he just ran at us and we couldn't do anything about it. And we afforded him that space. We didn't have that line of 8 or 9 with 5 at the back in front of him. He was just running into spaces. And if you look at what that did to Ogbonna for the Rashford goal, put the fear of life into him, and he backed off about 5 yards behind the rest of the defenders and played Rashford onside. And that's our best defender this season. He's been brilliant this year. But we didn't adjust the tactics when it went 1-1. I think because we were shell-shocked by what had just happened. But that's no excuse for everyone sees the brilliance of United.
Oh! Sorry. Genie. Now we're top in. Carry on, Alex.
But I also see what we could have done better in the moment there. I do think the reason I asked the question about Rashford and Fernandes was because it reminded me of, and I can't remember the team, but there was a Champions League game a few weeks ago where they didn't start and they were losing at half-time, and they came on and changed the game that time as well. And then both started the next game and it was quite ordinary, but just the impact from half-time of Fernandes in particular coming on the pitch, just you could see how it mobilised the whole team into playing better. And he's a hell of a player. I was shitting myself when he came on.
I think the difference between Fernandes and the rest of the United midfield is they're all looking to play the easy pass, whereas Fernandes wants to play that pass. His first thought is, can I get it into space in behind?
He's a maverick.
The pace of what we got, yeah. Van der Beek does it as well. When he played against, who was it the other day? I know it was Istanbul, without disrespecting them. Every time he got the ball, his first thought was turn and play forward, turn and play forward. But when McTominay and Fred, it's turn, play sideways, turn, play sideways. So they're just playing from side to side. And I think that's where Fernandes looks better, because he comes looking for the ball, and then his first thought is, can I get in behind to use the pace of Rashford? You're going to use it. Martial, when he wants to play, he might run every now and again, and after the odd ball.
Okay, as a United fan, there's 2 players I want to talk to you about, and one of them, I know we talked about Pogba so often when you used to come through the checkouts and whatnot. But for Fernandes, for me personally, and I have no interest in you doing well, you know that. But Fernandes is everything you thought Pogba was going to be when he signed. Is that fair? He's grabbing games, he's creating, he's going in the changing room and losing his shit, which is what I would love to see. I would love to hear that as a Liverpool fan. If Genie went out and went in the changing room, what the was that, lads? Like, kind of, I would love to hear that. Do you think, Gary, I don't know if you listened to the episode where we thought you might be stuck with Pogba and the fact that no one can afford him, or he can't. How many more players do you have to buy to unlock Paul Pogba, for instance? We've had it. Donny van Beek was supposed to do it. Bruno Fernandes hasn't done it because he doesn't need to do it, because he's doing what Pogba should have been doing this whole time. Is that fair?
Yeah, I agree there. But I think because of the price tag, everyone expected miracles from Pogba. Yeah. But he hasn't shown enough the ability he showed every week at Juve.
Yeah.
Now whether that's because in Italy he was a little bit younger, a bit fresher, a bit quicker, and the footballers are a little bit. The football is a completely different style of play in Italy. They're a lot more tactical. They hold their position more, and when you've got a player who'll move, you can unlock them. So maybe that at a younger age, he's a big 6'4" lad. He gets in the gaps quickly. When he gets in the Premier League, everyone's a bit quicker. They're a bit sharper, and because he's coming with a massive price tag and a big reputation, they're not scared to go and stick a foot on him and make him have to play the hard way.
But just down the road, Liverpool had a situation where, Pogba talks a lot for his agent or whatever. Coutinho wants to leave Liverpool. We tried to make him stay. But we weren't too proud to say, okay, we'll get 150 million for you. We'll buy 2 world-class players. And we were talking about the spine of a team the other day, weren't we, Ali, on here? And we bought the 2 most important blocks of the spine of a team. Like you had Schmeichel and Vidic for years, or whoever, and Schmeichel for years. We got Alisson and Virgil van Dijk with the money from a player who no longer wanted to be at Liverpool Football Club, who wasn't doing it anymore, or had a bad back for the last month he was with us, whatever. Do you not think maybe you should have followed that route and maybe got 150 million if someone would have paid that for Pogba and then bought like a. No, you don't think so, Gary, or not?
If I'm honest, no.
You're quite happy with how Pogba's contributing at the moment.
That wasn't the question. The question was should we have sold him and he's not happy there. And the only people who've said that he's not happy there are the newspapers.
He did flirt with Real Madrid, though, didn't he? He did flirt with Real Madrid. Every time he goes to France international duty, he says something stupid.
Every player that gets linked with Real Madrid say, "Oh, I'm so happy that Real Madrid are linked with me," or "I'm so happy Barcelona are linked with me."
Yeah.
He's a top player, and Real Madrid, for all their history, the biggest club in the world. And any player who says, the question was probably put to him, Real Madrid are linked with you. What do you think about that? He said, it's quite nice. Everyone would love to play for Real Madrid. And they've just gone, Paul Pogba wants to play for Real Madrid.
Personally, I see Pogba's number 10. Out and out 10 behind the strikers without any, like we were talking, like a maverick kind of a player, without any defensive expectations and just personally, if I was Pogba's manager, I'd put him behind the striker and say, just play. Just
do
get
you
on the
not
ball.
think? Do you not think when Mourinho was
play.
the manager of Man United and he was calling Paul Pogba a virus and making him train with the kids that he didn't want to leave them, Gary?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's had times where you could have sold him and then really strengthened.
But we all know when there's an issue at a club, it's the manager that goes, not the player.
True.
And what happened? A few months later, manager went.
Gary, how many years has Pogba for the second time been at Man U, and how many managers have you had?
How many good games has he had, Gary? I'm not even how many games.
I think what we're forgetting here is he started quite well when he came back, didn't he? His first season, he played really well.
He's done well in the first year. He won his trophies. Second year, not so well. And he's a confidence player.
Yeah.
And if he's not, I completely agree. He needs just a free role to go do whatever he wants to do. But who do you sacrifice?
You can't do that in the Premier League. Every player has to. It's like you're playing with 10.5 men.
Because you can clearly see he has world class talent. You can that strike he had the other night. He didn't score, but that is the cleanest strike of a football I've seen in many, many years. He absolutely larruped that. Didn't go in, but there's that talent there with Pogba where you just wish. Well,
yeah, but there's more. I slagged Pogba off. I think not the last time, but the one before, because I think the game was actually on. He was a midfielder and he was over by the corner flag doing someone else's job. I actually don't think he's got game intelligence. I think he's a fundamentally stupid.
Say what you think next time.
That's what I think it is.
Welcome to Football Gurus, Gary. Flipping out, Casper. Is it Gary? Is it? Every week he picks up someone.
Quote of the week.
Every week Casper just throws a hand grenade and just lets it go. God,
yes, he can. He can kick a ball from outside the box. He can turn a player, but has he got game intelligence? Yes, he has got a certain game intelligence to get where he is. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been scouted and he wouldn't be worth the money he's worth. But why is he consistently failing over a period of 4.5 years? There must be something wrong there.
That's a fair point.
And it can't be all to.
I kind of agree with what you said, Casper. To be honest, he's not. He doesn't look the most tactically intelligent player on the pitch. Like you said, he'll lose the ball and you'll see him look around and say, Now what do I do? And it's like, well, you've lost it. Go and win it back, mate. Or fill a gap so they can't play a pass to a different player. Yeah,
fill a gap, or shield, or stop a passing lane.
But he did a bicycle kick on his 6-yard box yesterday. It was good, but it was still a bit like, do you need to do a bicycle kick there?
So there's the question: is he an average number 10 and a mediocre midfielder?
3-0.
That's probably what he is.
3-0.
How are you ahead of me?
It's a matrix, Kath. It's a matrix.
But before now, I want to even this up. I remember watching a game where Pogba was a Manchester derby, and it's 3-0. Joel Matty, Ali, why don't you say anything? Right, it's a Manchester derby, and to be honest, Pogba was to be honest, Man United didn't play very well. But Pogba especially was just one of those games where he was trying to be a maverick and nothing was coming off. Everyone has those days. But then he scored 2 absolutely world-class headers to win the game. Out of absolutely nowhere. He did have the game intelligence to time his run. And so I wouldn't say he hasn't got game intelligence. I just think he's got an ego that needs stroking. And he wants to be that free role. He wants to be the man. He wants to be the maverick. But if I personally was Manchester United, and I'm not, I would sell him and spend the money on a world-class centre-back.
Oh, what would you pay for Pogba? Because you're saying all this about how crap he is, and then saying you'll sell him, but you're not going to get 85 million.
I would sell him. I would absolutely
so you're buying it, right? You're not Man United. You're Liverpool, and you want him, and you decided you're going to buy Paul Pogba. What's the absolute ceiling that you're going to pay for that player?
Because he has talent. He has he would have to go to a club where he is the man. He would have to go to a club
Answer the question. So you're Liverpool. You're going to buy Pogba to fill a squad place or something, or some creative play.
How much is Bruno Fernandes? 50, wasn't he?
I don't know how much Fernandes cost.
Yeah,
you can double that. I think Bruno Fernandes is worth at least double that. That was a bargain. So Pogba now, after the 4.5 years of him not doing too much, he's had a few injury problems. 50, 60. Well, in this market, mate, you've got players in the Championship near enough going for that.
Not really.
So
not really. Only top Championship players are going for any amount of money.
Pogba's not. He just needs the right environment, and I don't think, for whatever reason, it's quite worked. He could go somewhere else and be absolutely world class.
I think post-COVID, you're looking at 35, 40 absolute tops. Yeah. But bearing in mind, I said post-COVID, so the value of everyone's come down because Barcelona and Real Madrid can't afford to buy players anymore, which means everyone else is going to spend less money by definition.
Go on, Gary. I know Gary's chomping at the bit to say something. He is a Man United fan, so we better let him talk, even though he is a Man United fan. I could mute him, actually.
I kind of agree with Ali there. He's about a £40 million player now in the current market. He's not the 86 million what we paid for him. Nowhere near. I don't think he even was when we bought him. And I think for the first time ever, I've agreed with Mark.
Salah's diving again. Sorry.
It wasn't a dive. They're checking it on VAR. Fucking hell, what did I not get to take you to fucking get on that?
Oh, no penalty.
All I heard there was Gary agreeing with me, and that's never happened in about 20 years I've known him.
Sorry, Gary.
Yeah, I would have sold him. The minute he started flirting with somebody else, I'd have gone, okay, go get it done. Let the lad go. I don't. He's an absolute brilliant technical player. He's a brilliant player. Tactically, not so much.
I'll tell you, we got Naby Keita. Naby Keita is our version of Pogba. Has this? He's a little bit more consistent. As in, he does work hard. Naby Keita would always work hard, but he hasn't hit the heights that we thought. No way. Naby Keita is exactly the same. I wouldn't sell him yet. I still want to have him 10 games in a row and contributing because he does work hard. He does bust his ass. He does press. He does track back. But
Naby Keita is more like your version of Fred.
Yeah, he's a bit more attacking than Fred. He's a more attacking version of Fred. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll go along
Should
with
we
that.
move on?
Yes.
All right. I've got 2 more individuals I want to talk about. So Grealish, then Maddison. And bearing in mind that Casper just piled on to Man U, I'll save Maddison 5 minutes. We'll come back to him. Jack Grealish. So I've been singing the praises of Jack Grealish since show 1, really, haven't I? About his.
I did a Jack Grealish or James Maddison question, didn't I?
Well, there you go. And today I've got separate questions on them both. So still no doubt in my mind whatsoever that Grealish is a creative genius. I've got no problem with him drawing fouls as he does in every game he plays. Definitely part of the modern game. So my question. So going back to the West Ham Villa game the other night, there was an incident. I've only seen it from one angle on social media where a tackle came in from Fornals. And then about half a second passed, and then Grealish did the old legs up in the air, grabbed his legs, and it was that horrible South American dive that happened half a second after that we all hate. Didn't get picked up by the referee. I accept that. He probably didn't see it, or didn't have the angle to see it as a deliberate, piece of trying to con the ref. Should that have gone to the whatever it's called at the FA and been a retrospective ban?
Yes. Yep. It was embarrassing. He doesn't need to do it. He is an absolutely outstanding talent, but footballers don't need to do it. And this is where they let themselves down. They do let themselves down. And the only thing that would get rid of it is a retrospect. You're absolutely right. The only thing that would get rid of it is a retrospective ban. I still can't say it, so carry on.
I'm going to bring it straight back to you, Mark. Does Grealish go down so much? Because I've had so much conversation about this on Twitter this week. Does Grealish and players like Grealish, do they go down because they're not protected enough? And so therefore they're almost expecting it. And so they do overreact and so on and so forth. There was one, what was the game yesterday where the guy was fouled in the area and didn't go down, didn't get a penalty because he didn't, he felt the contact and carried on. So is there an element of that with Grealish? And I wouldn't, because it was against my team for one, but I can't forgive that horrible play acting that acting like you've been shot when there's barely been any contact at all, and you delay it because you've realised that you could win a foul, and then you found out by a video camera.
You've just hit the nail on the head. Absolutely identical situation yesterday to Robertson and Welbeck. The difference is yesterday the lad didn't go down. He carried on running. It was Leeds against Chelsea. Right. It was their brilliant young player, Pavard, who's a little Coutinho. Yeah. So similar to Coutinho when he first moved to Liverpool.
That's right.
It was identical in every way. 2 feet like that. Ball was away. It wasn't really. It could have been a penalty. But if Andy Robertson was a penalty, that was a penalty. Same referee on VAR. Exactly the same referee. Doesn't give it a penalty. That's where the fans struggle with VAR. Is ridiculous decisions like Patrick Bamford's, Eric Dyer's. And then you've got complete lack of consistency. Players go down, Ali, because they won't get the penalty otherwise. That should have been brought back and a penalty awarded because nothing came of it. But it wasn't.
With Grealish, though, so a lot of his fouls are outside the area. So we're not talking about penalties. We're talking about him winning free kicks in advantageous areas because Villa are good at free kicks, attacking. They're good at set pieces. But for me, you've got a player like Grealish that I'd much rather see him take that last man on and try and score. And sometimes he does that, but does he? He's foul. He's the most foul player in the Premier League. That's a fact. They're not all him drawing fouls. Some of them are out-skilling players and they're skiving him down. So so I've stood up for him in the past, and that's why I'm saying all of that. I completely understand, but. Do we then drive players towards simulation? Because presumably, if he's the most fouled player in the Premier League, how many times has he fouled where he doesn't get a free kick? So he thinks, well, I might as well just hit the floor.
I think they've got to meet in the middle. VAR's got to come into it. If, like yesterday, there's a situation where borderline penalty, but one's been given the last week for it, then it's got to bring it back. It does encourage people to play act. It does encourage people to simulate because they know if they don't go down, if they don't. Harry Kane's got this habit of backing into players at the moment. He did it again, and he could have seriously injured someone yesterday doing it. Strikers are getting streetwise with sticking their legs in between. I think I've talked to you about this before, Gary, even years ago, is strikers running across defenders and sticking their legs in between their legs. Vardy's brilliant. He runs across the defender, sticks his leg in between their legs as they run. Penalty, it's from behind. He's done it so many times. He's done it more than that.
He's done it once.
So yes, unfortunately, VAR not coming back. sake, they're on the edge of their own box at the moment.
I told you it'd be comfortable.
You did, mate. Yes, Ali.
I got this one.
I don't even know who scored that. Sadio Mane's grinning like a Cheshire cat, so I was drinking some. Yes, Ali. Before I hand over to the other two, yes, players are having to simulate because they're kind of manipulating VAR to a certain extent, and I don't think Jack Grealish is a serial diver as such, but he's certainly fouled an awful lot because he's such a key player for Villa. People know if you stop Grealish, you stop Villa, basically, right? So they target him. They do target him. They stick a man on him, man to man usually, and he does get clattered a lot. But my God, he does also dive a lot. So it's I would say he's a diver, but I would say he's also targeted, and I would say VAR should come back to incidences of a foul where it doesn't lead to anything in the box. Carry on.
Can I stick with some of the coaches' perspective
yes,
as well? We've gone quite a lot on referees giving protection and VAR bringing it back. Now, Jack Grealish is a skillful player. He's quick. He over those first 5 yards, he's got the ball. His first thought is get the ball behind and get in around the back, or quick shuffle and go inside. Now, from a coach, if he's getting fouled a lot, now surely that to me that shows defenders are stupid. They know he's going to do it. They know he's going to try and get across your body. Why stick a leg out? Just stand him up and show him into a corner, or stand up and show him into some trouble into the middle of the pitch. Don't dangle a leg so he does it. That as a manager, I would literally say, look, it's Jack Grealish. If he comes across your body, just jockey across with him. Don't let him get across you. If he gets across you, just don't stick a leg out. Use your shoulder, knock him off balance a bit. Shoulder's fine. Go. Referees, yeah, they might not give him as much protection, but from my point of view, I'd be looking at my players going, you know what he's going to do. Stop putting your leg out.
Gary, I reckon there's a problem in youth football, and that's that not enough kids get sent off. I've never seen a kid get sent off. I very rarely see a yellow card for consistent fouling or multiple fouling against these skillful kids that we were talking about at the beginning. Either there's something that someone's told the referees, under 16 and upwards, don't give yellow cards, or I just don't know. I don't know why kids get away from under 16 upwards with so much. Like you can commit almost unlimited professional fouls at under 16 and under 18s, and they just seem to get away with it.
Down to like the refereeing as an individual. I've done quite a few 16s and 18s games, and if I'm honest, I'm happy to throw a yellow card out. If they're going to make a foul, they're going to get booked. I know a colleague of mine, he did an under 18s cup game. When was it? Sort of just before the lockdown started, and he sent 2 players off from the same team for swearing at him. Straight red, bang, see you later. And the discipline is I think it's under 12s. The referees are allowed to start booking and sending players off, which I think isn't a bad thing. That's the rules. If you break the rules, and you're going to do it. Allowing them to keep making mistakes like repetitive fouling is only going to put it into their game long term. I completely agree. Maybe the coaches need to have a little look at themselves as well. If one of my players was consistently fouling and doing things that was further than the dark arts of football,
it's repetitive fouling and clever fouling. Is that not just good coaching and creating a streetwise winning machine, if you like?
You can only give a player so much information. They'll do with it as they please. You can guide them as much as you can. But if they keep doing the wrong or the right things, you can still only guide them to. If a player's just got that nasty streak and he wants to keep kicking everybody, there's not really much a coach could do about it. You can just try it. If I've seen it, I'll take him off and tell him why.
I think it's a metric, isn't it, in the Manchester City academy?
Yeah.
Most yellow cards.
You're getting nowhere if you don't foul to break down a counter attack. Yeah.
It wasn't long ago that James Maddison was linked with United, and honestly, I thought you were getting him at one point. I honestly thought he was on his way to Manchester United. Now, Casper, you obviously watch him a lot more than him and I do, but I certainly haven't really noticed James Maddison putting up trees.
James Maddison,
like
it's our next topic.
I thought we were kind of combining the two.
That's what we're not doing this week. But anyway, carry on.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, I'm using an example. I'm using it as an example, and then we can, go. For instance, our next subject, James Maddison. I haven't noticed him tearing up trees like Grealish. I don't know if he's been injured or not, to be perfectly honest. But I think Grealish is an absolutely wonderful talent that's in exactly the right place, and I hope he doesn't leave Aston Villa for the good of his career. To be honest with you, teams are targeting him. He gets fouled an awful lot. Simple.
It's a choice, though, isn't it? I've compared Maddison's dribbling to Gaza a few times, not because it's exactly the same, but because it generates similar levels of excitement when he pulls it off. But you never saw Gaza do that. You never saw Gaza feign an injury, half a second after contact to try and con a referee to get a fellow professional booked. That's the bit that annoys me. Everything else in Grealish's playbook, I understand, but that for me it was. Do you remember the one with I think it was Rivaldo at a World Cup where someone kicked the ball in his shit and held his face? It's the same as that. He's trying to get someone sent off for something they haven't done.
But the thing is, Al, you see that with when a striker comes across a defender to clear it. How many times do you give a free kick given when the striker slides in, misses this guy's foot by like a foot, and the defender goes and grabs hold of his leg? It's exactly the same thing.
No, there's two differences. So I think I said this when we did a comparison on one of the shows to there was a Lanzini foul a few years back where he got a penalty and then retrospectively got banned for it, and he went over the player's leg and there was no contact, but he was running at 15 miles an hour. It was in anticipation of what was about to happen. So whether he'd left his leg there or not, he was going over. So then it's left to the referee to decide whether to order whether that's a foul or not. It's not. He didn't dive, so to speak. He wasn't trying to con the referee. He was trying to avoid the contact with the leg. With this one with Grealish and similar challenges, the contact's already there is contact. It's already happened, but it's not a foul or it's not deemed a foul. And then he tries to make it look 10 times worse. It's the delay that does it for me. It's that delay of nothing. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I've just been shot. It's those ones that I.
Yeah, and it's a yellow card. I think it's a yellow card for simulation, but they'll never do it because they haven't got a backbone for it. To be perfectly honest. It's like the professional fouls where you stop a breakaway and you pull the bloke's shirt so obviously. Yeah. It's a red card. Well, I think that has to be a red card going forward. Sure. Personally, I know it's a bold claim.
I guess,
but it's ruining the game. It's absolutely ruining the game.
If it's only a yellow for Grealish doing that, then that's why you can't look at it retrospectively, can you? Because you can only award a red retrospectively, not a yellow.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Then they got no excuses not to. Retrospectively, they got no excuses. No, I'm with you. Yeah. Completely agree.
Yeah. Oh well, still beat them by pure luck. So my James Maddison question. So he's been. I don't know exactly how many games he's back for injury now, Cas. I think it's 5 or 6 games. That's what it is in my head at least. I know he hit the woodwork today, but he doesn't seem to be purring yet this season. And I've not really seen the best of Maddison I don't watch every Leicester game, but the excitement he was generating kind of early mid-season last season, I don't recall seeing it for a while now. So obviously you see a lot more of them than I do. What's your take on how Maddison's getting on at the moment?
So I think he's actually only had 2 games back where he started. Everything else has been, he's been the sports scientists, I think, have been like easing him back to play, which is fair enough because he had a very long spell off. So they don't want to get him injured again, and so it's a different team that he's with, playing probably a slightly different philosophy, tweaked philosophy, let's say. And Didi, who was there to provide that kind of defensive cover for to give the confidence of these kind of skillful forward players, these link-up players, the chance to get forward and, like I say, dribble between the lines, play in tight areas. He's probably a bit more nervous about making mistakes or giving the ball away. So
I'll tell you who's overtaken him in my opinion. Maddison,
and
James Ward-Prowse at Southampton. What a player!
Who?
What a player he's becoming. He's very similar to Maddison with his set pieces and stuff like that. But I think Maddison, he needs to start playing again soon. I think. Old James Maddison.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's not doing anything particularly wrong, but he's just not standing out. And I've seen him live loads of times, and he is a standout player. The way he can just get on the half turn in those tight areas and link up play. But why he's not doing it now?
You got Rodgers there is brilliant.
Next season,
Rodgers is great with that kind of way. You know, Rodgers brought Coutinho on. I think Rodgers could take a lot of credit for how Coutinho turned out because he was his manager for so long. Yeah. So he should be well set there with Rodgers as his manager. He shouldn't have many excuses as to why he when he finds form after his injury. Sorry, Al, go on.
I was just going to say I'm going to start a count on Coutinho next week. I'm bored of Bobby Firmino now because that's about the 18th time you've mentioned Coutinho. Doesn't even play for you anymore.
I used him as an example as good business, selling someone who doesn't want to beat your club and reinvesting said money onto world-class players. How is that not relevant?
So match fitness is the bottom line at the moment, Casper. Players do take a while. We play in the fastest paced league in the world, in the Premier League, don't we? So it's match fitness.
Yeah. I think match fitness, conditions. There's so many factors that can, affect a player's ability to play well, and even from the timing that he returns to play. So I think give it after Christmas, maybe into the next season. I think you'll see a different player, just because he spent so long out, and also having Ndidi and that kind of ball playing.
Gary, would you take Maddison in your team over Pogba at this time?
Ooh, that's a shout! Wow, we didn't even hesitate. Yeah. You didn't even hesitate to say yes there.
I said when you started cheering about your game in the background there, I did say early on I agree with you about selling Paul Pogba, and he would be the replacement. Madison's his passing range, his ball carrying ability. Him and Fernandez with two good holding midfielders behind him.
I like Tillemans. At Leicester. I think he's awesome. Box to box.
He'll need a good holding midfielder.
Do a bit of everything. I really like Tillemans.
He's good, but my one observation of Tillemans, you get into the last 20 minutes and he gets knackered, and he gets a lot of
Is this his second season in the Premier League, or did he join in January? Tillemans.
Who's that? Tillemans?
Yeah. No, I think second. Oh, you joined before. This is his second full season. So good, absolutely brilliant player. But I think, in the last 2015, you can see he starts getting tired, and his decision making is impacted.
Well, I think it would be remiss of us to do this podcast tonight and not talk at all about the North London derby. I know none of us support any of those teams, but a really intriguing game of football this afternoon. Kind of bookended at the beginning and end of the first half, classic Mourinho style, with a great defensive performance, but two excellent counter-attacking goals as well. That I've got to say did very well for my fantasy league football team because I have Kane and Son in there. Kane is the captain, so every time they score and assist each other, it saves my week from having West Ham players in my team as well. So feel free to expand on this and call me stupid over you. I'm going to ask you all individually: are Spurs going to win the league, Gary?
There's potential. The fact that they're winning games ugly now, that I think they've got a good chance. They've got a better chance than Arsenal, 100%. They've got a better chance than Man United at the minute as well with the inconsistency. I can see Spurs being top two and pushing Liverpool all the way to the end. With Mourinho, you've got a proven track winner. Everywhere he goes, he wins something. now might be the time. He's got Spurs where he wants them. He's had a year and a half there now, so he's got the team he wants, and he set up today to beat Arsenal with his team, and the team responded and did a brilliant job. Arsenal under Arteta are looking more like a poor man's Man City. They just knocked the ball around and did nothing with it. And also all Tottenham did, they just sat back and kept the ball, then feed it into Kane and Son. And
for me, they set up exactly the same way as they did against Chelsea. They just, on one day you score a couple of goals, on another day you might not. And but they didn't concede any again. And
I think Chelsea's
very true.
defense is a lot better than Arsenal's defense.
Very true.
Thiago is 36. Thiago 36 is actually I thought he'd come in and be a bit of our player, but he's actually gelled that back together. And
Arsenal's problem is what we come back to last week. They have no spine of their team. They have no rock solid. Leno's. I wouldn't call Leno rock solid. He's not intimidating. He's not a leader. They haven't got a leader in defence. They haven't got a leader in midfield. They have a Wang or whatever, a Wang, who is a world-class talent when he wants to be, but ever since he signed his contract, he seems to be gone off the boil. Spurs, on the other hand, have got a spine of the team, and they've got a manager who became, and I'm a huge fan of Jose because he just wants to win. He doesn't give a shit if it's 1-0, like I've said on a few episodes, every game. He doesn't care. Yes, they can win the league because Jose Mourinho knows how to win leagues. It's that simple. He's got the experience. He's got the know-how. He's got the smash and grab. He's got the. It sounded like a Mourinho masterclass today. Is that fair enough, Gary or Ali?
Yeah,
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it was.
The
second half in particular, they took care of business in the first half, sat deep in the second half. Arsenal had probably 70% possession in the second half, but it didn't matter because they didn't do anything with it. Spurs were defended so well, and actually Spurs, could have nicked a couple. Arsenal could have as well, to be fair, but that is the fine margins of the Premier League. But it's not 1-0. It's not 1-0. So they've got the best goal.
No.
They've got the best goal difference in the league, haven't they? So.
Do you remember when Graham Souness said about Arsenal? He said there are 11 blokes you'd want your daughter to bring home, and they're still 11. Yeah. They are still 11 blokes you would want your daughter to bring home.
Says it all.
There's no leaders. There's no shithouse. There's no one in the midfield who's going to get in your grill. I'm not saying Arteta's not going to be a very, very good manager, and he does have horrendously bad owners, but he needs to do a damn sight better with what he's got there at the moment. There just isn't a leader. Wang tries his best, but there is just no. There's no leader.
Arteta will be gone soon enough. Eric Dyer moving back to centre back seems to make a massive difference to how he plays. I've never been Eric Dyer's hugest fan. Found him pretty error prone in the past, but he just looks rock solid at the back.
From reading and stuff, what he said in interviews.
All right, Casper,
I've got to go.
The contract.
I'm going to have to shoot off.
We'll renegotiate it. Casper, lovely.
Yeah,
lovely to have you on, and see you next week, hopefully.
If you could get your mustache back for next week, that'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. no, sorry, mate. Can't go about that quickly.
Always a pleasure.
Anytime, mate. Anytime. Next week,
thanks
probably.
for having me on. Much appreciated.
Cheers, pal.
Cheers. Bye.
Gary, you're about to say, or Mark, you're about to ask Gary. I can't remember which way around it was.
No, I don't remember. What's the next subject? Quick, we're really good at this podcast.
All right, so let's move on to tonight. Wolves. So don't really want to talk about Liverpool. We talk about them too often. But Wolves.
Yeah, let's talk about Wolves.
This is Wolves' second 4-0 defeat this season. They've got no Jota. They've got no Jimenez for the foreseeable now. And they're leaking goals as well at the back, which I find disappointing because I've got Cody in my dream team, but he's not done too well tonight. So is the Portuguese dream over for Wolves?
No, they just need a decent striker now. They need to replace Jimenez. Unfortunately, he doesn't look like he's going to play again anytime soon. They can have Divock Origi for a packet of Monster Munch and a 7-Up if they want. They can have Paul Pogba. Isn't that right, Gary?
Yeah, take him.
But they need a striker, don't they? They need a striker. Unfortunately, I really like Jimenez. I really, really like him. I think he's a super player. To be honest, the goals they conceded tonight, they weren't there was one howler from Cody, and there was an own goal. You could say both were freak accidents, really. They were, but they do keep happening, Ali.
Yeah.
And I just think Wolves need to go back to basics a little bit. Again, have they got any real leaders in there? I like Connor Cody, but
this is what I mean. Have they been found out a bit, or have they just lost their mojo this season? They seem to have intensity. They were a very intense team last year, weren't they?
They don't use Adama Traore correctly, in my opinion. He is an I like Adama Traore. I think he's, again, a maverick, wants to ball, he's explosive, and I just don't think Wolves use him correctly at all, personally.
Wolves have got a system where they get everyone behind the ball apart from the top. Your number 10 stays up, and the number 9 stays up even higher, and everyone else gets behind the ball and they shuffle across quite well as a unit. And having a Adama Traore on that side, he's not. He runs back, but he's not going to do a lot. He's just going to run and fill space. So I think that's where they're getting found out, because he's leaving space, which is creating overloads. Which, I played as a defender. If you've got 2 or 3 players and you're 1 against 2, you're going to have a bit of trouble there, which is why they're getting in behind the fullbacks on that side. Adama's a great player, but he's not. Again, creative players need to be forward, not at the back. So playing them out wide might be where their Achilles heels come in, which is what's causing those extra few mistakes.
I know when West Ham played them, we were very scared of Traore because he's run rings round us for 2 or 3 seasons in a row now. One of which we went to, didn't we, Mark, at the London Stadium when he came on as a sub, and he just embarrassed us. Even though it was only 1-0 on the day, but it could have been 5-0. It absolutely destroyed us.
Yeah.
But this season was the one where we beat them. I think it was 4-0, and Traore started the game and didn't get a look in simply because we tag teamed him with Creswell and Masuaku. So every time he got the ball down the wing, they were just both on him, smothering him. So he couldn't go outside as he likes to do, but there was nowhere for him to cut inside as well. But also, he wasn't tracking back with the pace that he runs forward with. So we've got loads of opportunity down that left wing as well, where there was a big hole where Traore would have been defensively. So, when you talk about those creative talents and how you make them work, that's a prime example, I think, Gary, of you need to you can't fit them into a team necessarily, a team system. You sometimes need to adapt the system around their absolute strengths and kind of accept their weaknesses for the good of their creativity.
Yeah, you need someone in that situation with Adama playing high, not getting back. The central midfielders need to be clever enough to notice when in that transition to get over. They've all got to shuffle and cover that gap. If that ball gets into that and goes towards that side of the field, they've got to transition across quicker, and maybe that's what they're not doing for whatever reason, or because he's coming back. They're like, oh, sorry, he's coming back now, and they're leaving the space, and teams are at that level. They're going to spot it. They're going to exploit it. And they're going to run right at the fullback.
I would use Traore. I would take Traore's defensive responsibility completely, and because they're struggling for a striker for the rest of the season or till January, I would actually play Adama Traore through the middle. Because if you remember what he did to Man City, do you remember what he did to Man City at the Etihad when he actually played up front? He absolutely destroyed them. Personally, I would play him up top because he's underused at Wolves. And I don't know, there is a contract dispute there. I don't know why they're putting him on the bench, but I just think he's brilliant. And while you've got a player like that and you're not scoring many goals, you've got to use him effectively. But I love the way they play the football. I like their manager. I really like Wolves' manager. But they just need to. They need to start winning games because, as Arsenal are finding out, it's a very, very difficult league to climb when you're not in form. And this season's going to be like a season no other. I still think there's going to be so many shocks, relegation-wise and title-wise, that teams are going to get stuck in very, very unfortunate situations. See?
Well, I think as you said in previous week, Mars, it's very tight middle this season already. So just looking at the Wolves who've lost tonight, goal difference of -4 now. They're in 10th place, but they're 2 points off being in 5th place. United in 5th, 4 points off a Champions League spot, despite everything. West Ham turned over by United yesterday. Exactly the same. 17 points, a point behind Man City, and then you only got to go down. Where are we? What? Another 2 points. Villa in 12th. Arsenal languishing in 15 points, 6 points off a Europa League place. So I don't know, we're only 11 games in, but it's bloody close.
I think whoever wins the league this year, Ali and Gary, I don't know what you think, is going to have the lowest ever points total the league's ever been won. Would you agree with that or not? Or similar?
It's a tough one.
It's just such a crazy season. Now fans are coming back as well, which is outstanding.
I think
you've only got to look. I think like 60% of the wins have been away wins.
Yeah, but look at your top three though, because realistically speaking, it's likely that you.
I'm going to bring it up. Thanks.
I've got it up already, so I can tell you. So your top three teams: Tottenham, Liverpool, Chelsea, have all lost 1 game each after 10 games. So if you average that over the season, 3 losses between 6 and 9 draws. That won't be the lowest points total ever, but it'll be far from being the highest.
It's going to be a crazy. You got the Manchester derby next weekend as well.
Yeah, but that doesn't affect the top 3. It's a different season this year.
It's just going to be crazy. You got Liverpool Spurs next week as well, I think.
I think what's lowest points winning total for the league is about 76?
76 points looks an awful long way away right now with the condensed season and everyone beating everyone, and I can't see it being 76 points. It's going to be a lot less.
Well, after 11 games, if you take the current state of play and times it by 3, then Tottenham and Liverpool, after 33 games, with 5 games to go, would be on 72 points. So they'd need 6 points from 5 games to beat that. If all remain constant, which we know it's not going to. But
to win the league, you're still going to need 85 points minimum.
You think 2 teams are going to get away at the top 2 or just a whole bunch of them?
The way Liverpool and Spurs, Liverpool can be consistent all season. If Spurs and Mourinho can keep carrying on being consistent, at some point City are going to go on a run. I'm hoping United can find some consistent form and we can go on a bit of a run. Because even if we've got a game in hand, we win that, we're only 2 points behind.
Yep.
Liverpool.
This is the thing. We've been saying this about Liverpool all season. If you can be not on top of your game, scraping the odd 1-0 and be top of the league, you're doing all right. Same with United. You're not really got fully firing or consistently week on week yet, but you're in the Champions League place, in touch and distance of the top 3. So there's all to play for, really, isn't there?
I think the dark horse in there.
I think they can win the league. I think Chelsea. I really do think Chelsea can win the league with the business they've done.
So Mark and I have both called our predictions a few weeks back now as Chelsea, or obviously you're vested in Liverpool as well, Mark, but Chelsea or Spurs as the...
No, I said Chelsea or Spurs, if not Liverpool. Yeah,
the 2 teams that could really buck the trend this year.
Yeah, especially with the way Chelsea have seemed to sort of set up defensively and the attacking players they've got, they'll create chances, and if they can keep Thiago Silva sensible like they've been doing, very rarely using him midweek games, and he's just playing Premier League games. So that's where Chelsea want to go. They want to be back to winning Premier Leagues. The Champions League's always a nice one, but the Premier League's a little. I still think the Premier League's more prestigious than the Champions League, personally. And if you ask someone in Spain, La Liga is still better than winning the Champions League, possibly, because that's the bread and butter. You would want to be the best in your country. You want to win the Champions League, you only got to play what?
I think supporting a team that's never won either. But there is a real prestige to the Champions League, but there's always going to be, it was it was the elephant in the room for Liverpool. Winning Champions Leagues but not winning a Premier League was getting a bit embarrassing. And to have that legacy properly of the most recent Champions League, they needed to follow it up with the league title, and they did so. But as a club neutral that all supports English teams in Europe, that the happiest footballing nights of my life communally outside of being in a stadium supporting my own team. United in '99, Liverpool in '05. Truly, even Chelsea on pens. Great nights and jumping up and down for joy. That's something that I think your European football, Champions League football, I should say, kind of gives fans that maybe that is different. It's not better than, but it's different to what the Premier League gives.
It's tricky because Champions League, Premier League get the chance to prove they are the best, and it's nice when you beat Barcelona like we did in that special game at Anfield with Messi and everyone like that. I thought we were done. I remember Ali sending me a message or two when Messi bent that free kick, and my phone went beep 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 beep. Ali, hello Ali.
But I was annoyed. I wanted Liverpool to win.
It's a toss-up. We won the Premiership title after 30 years, and nothing will ever beat that feeling. But the Champions League, you do play the best in Europe, and you get the chance to prove that outside of the Premiership bubble, you're the best. So I can't really split it.
It was a COVID year anyway, wasn't it? You've got to do it again to validate it. I mean, if you don't win it this year, you haven't really won it, have you? Because no fans there. Had a nice long break for your players that were all flaking in February.
Got 562 injuries in the squad at the moment.
Oh, do you remember that Watford game? Just like you see, God, we're going to throw the league away.
I really didn't care about being invincible. I just wanted to win the league. Job done. What's your next subject, Ali? Or Gary, have you got a subject?
I did. I mean, you guys only went on this.
I've done them all. You had a couple, Mark, but you never write them down. So I don't know if you've remembered them or not.
All right, well, let's talk about super clubs now, like the Barcelonas, the Real Madrid. Are they going to carry on attracting the world's best players, or where are the world's best players going to go now? Real Madrid and Barcelona can't afford them. Is the Premier League the place to be?
Yes and no. Some will go there because, regardless of financial clout, they've still got the prestige of being through the go-to clubs in the world. There's a real glamour with playing for Barcelona and Real Madrid. But I think, even before COVID, we were starting to see a movement towards Germany, towards the Premier League, and to a lesser extent towards Serie A as well. And I think that will just continue over time. That obviously, I think Hispanic players, culturally, it's easier for them to move to La Liga. The language is there, the Latin culture. It's easy for them. The weather, it's easy for them to assimilate. But we have a lot of Brazilian players come to the Premier League. We always have done, and long may that continue. Great stat today: the most red cards in the Premier League, but this season is by Brazilians. Was it something like that? Because somebody.
If Liverpool say, for instance, our front three, everyone keeps saying this is the last, and people who would know say this is the last season they're going to be together. So it makes me think one of them is going to be leaving. Maybe I don't know which one of them would be leaving. Maybe Salah would get the most money for it at the moment with his age. Where's he going to go? Who can actually afford a prime Mohamed Salah in world football in these COVID times? I honestly don't think Barcelona and Real Madrid can afford
Munich
it.
Munich can.
Munich, but there's no challenge in Germany for Munich. I mean, they won it the last 12 years in a row or something since Klopp left. Surely you want to go somewhere like Spain or Italy where you get at least every other game is an actual,
Real Madrid.
You think they're good?
Anyone still? I know. Yeah, I know it's post-COVID and everything's a bit different, but for God knows how many years, they've
Yeah.
borrowed money off the government to buy these name players because in the shirt sales, they'll get it back within a small time. Eden Hazard, the only exception to the rule because he's not done nothing since he's gone there, but be injured. But no, when David Beckham went over there, they're like, no, they weren't going to buy him. Bang, here he comes. But even Juventus are throwing around big money at the minute. They're offering out big. I know quite a bit rumoured, but they still spent best part of what 70 odd million on Ronaldo and paying him a big wedge each week. Whether they would go and buy from Salah, possibly not. Real Madrid might do. Barcelona couldn't unless they sold Griezmann maybe.
I think big players just won't sign new contracts, and they'll be. Honestly, that's the way it's going. Like we said in the previous episode, I can see Mbappe just winding his contract down at PSG, and whoever offers the most wages. I would like to see Mbappe in Spain, Italy, or England to see how good he really is, rather than in France where the standard isn't too great. I suppose, it's
the prestige of those big clubs will always be there. United are in a bit of a bad area, but they can still go out and spend the money and attract a big player if they really forced it through. And Ed Woodward wasn't such of a skinflint, because that's not how it looks, but just because of the name of Man United. And it's the same with Barcelona, Real Madrid, Liverpool. These historically big clubs will still attract.
The last subject that I wrote down was player power, and are managers ruthless enough, or which managers get walked over, and what are the best examples of man managers you've seen in your time in football? Who would you say is the worst man management manager who just really doesn't have any empathy at all, and which are the managers who really get the best out of every single player that puts on his club shirt? Who would you say is the worst man manager you've seen in football?
Who
you genuinely think I would not want to play football?
Who are you asking?
Anyone.
I'll throw out the worst one just because of everywhere he's gone. There's always been issues in the dressing room. That's Jose Mourinho. Everywhere he goes, there's unrest in the dressing room. Every single club he goes to.
If you look at his treatment of Dele Alli and Ndombele, which is pretty similar, Ndombele seems to now have taken his game to a new level, whereas Dele Alli obviously doesn't like Jose Mourinho's tough love. He did it at Martial, and Martial had that kind of good spell where he looked interested for a little while. I just think Jose's man management skills are very tough, very hard, tough love. And there's a lot of prima donnas in football who probably don't like the cold shoulder approach. They like the arm around the shoulder rather than Jose. I mean, Ndombele was slated. Do you remember? Ndombele was slated week after week after week in the press, name checked by Jose Mourinho. And now look at him. He's actually looking like the player they bought. He's reacted. His mentality is one of, all right, okay, I can show you, Jose. Whereas Dele Alli's mentality is obviously not anything like that, because he's been called out and he hasn't really looked like kicking on and proving a point, although he took his penalties beautifully in the week. Jose, I'm not going to lie, Jose could start an argument in an empty room. He really could. But it's a tricky one. I just think his style of man management is not suited to the young players of today. Would that be fair?
Yeah. It's outdated. Players now have their arm around their shoulder all the time. Even coaches are told coaching sessions need to be player centered. It's the needs of the player to come first. So he's definitely an old school man manager, which when they're winning is brilliant. No, but Spurs are doing well now. There's no issues in the dressing room. Dele Alli's that little argument they're having seems to sort of disappeared from the newspapers because they're playing well. As soon as they start dropping down the league,
Yeah.
That's when the trouble started. Same with Man United. When he finished second, everyone was happy. The following year, when it wasn't working, it's Jose's fault for the way he treats the players.
When Jose at United, though, he never moved to Manchester, did he? He just stayed at the Lowry. He never actually bought a house in Manchester. He never. And this is Jose's fault, by the way. I'm not blaming the club. So Jose never. I don't think Jose ever really, because his family was living in London still. I don't think his heart was ever completely settled in Manchester because of the whole hotel thing, and he wasn't actually settled. He didn't have a base. But he did finish second with a pretty ordinary. But then again, he did have no one combusts like Jose Mourinho. I'll give you that. Nobody combusts like Jose Mourinho today. Nobody.
If I'm honest, we're probably one of the best man managers. I think it's got to be Brendan Rodgers.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look at Coutinho. Classic example.
Celtic were flying, Liverpool were flying, Leicester were flying. Ever he's been, you've never heard anything bad. The players are always happy. They're always coming out and giving interviews. Oh yes, and they say the right things and do the right things. And whenever someone asks him a question about singling out one of his players, he brushes it off to the side and praises them rather than.
I know it's another reason why Liverpool fans don't like Raheem Sterling particularly is the way he treated Brendan Rodgers. He had a smear campaign against Brendan Rodgers when this whole contract negotiation was going on. He said he would only put his arm around me when the photographers were around. He said steady on when being Liverpool when he didn't actually say anything apparently, just for the cameras. But I couldn't agree more about Brendan Rodgers. It was sad how it ended at Liverpool. He did kind of start to believe his own hype and start just making really, really strange decisions. But he is a very, very good young manager. Maybe what happened at Liverpool will be the making of Brendan Rodgers. Because he's doing a brilliant job now at Leicester.
I hope so. I've got a view on, but I'm going to come in now. I've got a view on both the previously mentioned manager.
You thought there.
Yeah, I was listening. That's my listening face.
Really?
So
Steady.
I'm going to be ever so brief about Jose, but just a fleeting point at the end of it. I think he's a different manager now to the manager he was at Porto, the manager he was at Chelsea, and to an extent the manager he was at Man United. We can't be so black and white as to presume managers are the same throughout the managerial career. I think he's learned from some of his mistakes. And he's not mellow as such, but he's starting to mellow, and you see more steady and not overreacting in key situations now, and sticking with players. It would the Prime series on Spurs last season was quite intriguing. Obviously, by as much as by what it didn't show as what it did, because it's so heavily edited. But gave a bit more insight to his gentler side as well, I think, and. Made him, by hook or by crook, a more amiable character. Rodgers, I agree and I disagree, but I think he can be a bit of a fair weather manager. When things are going well, it all appears great, but the wheels came off for him at Liverpool, and I don't think he handled the press well. And he was talking about members of his team in public when things weren't going so well, and then ultimately, it ended as it did for him, and he ended up at Celtic, who were the only team in Scotland at the time, really, with any financial clout whatsoever. Rangers haven't been demoted. So it's hard to judge his success there. So he's not really won any trophies. So great, he's managing the team well, but surely the best man managers have to be the ones that do that and are really successful as well.
I got told off the other week for saying what's Pochettino ever won.
We all agreed. He hasn't won a trophy, a major trophy. So, and until he does, then we all agree he's an exceptional manager, but it needs to be underpinned by something silver, doesn't it? So, as much as it pains me to say it, and you know what's coming, I think that in the current game. The best man manager by a country mile is Jurgen Klopp, because every single player that plays under him absolutely loves him. All the fans love him because of how he is with his players. All the fans of other teams love him because of the way that he talks, his honest, candid nature. So even when he winds me up, which he is a bit at the moment with the poor Liverpool scenarios, but I still just got an intense amount of respect for the guy because everyone that works for him loves working for him. That's no one that's ever going to come out and say working under Klopp was terrible. It's never going to happen because he's a brilliant manager that has taken players. Yes, he spent a bit of money on certain players, but he's taken players out of the Championship, out of Scotland, out of all these different places, and turned them into world beaters. He signs players. He tells them about the club's heritage and culture, and about how the fact you're not going to play in this team for probably 6 months because you need to understand this team's mentality inside out. It doesn't matter who you are. I'm not going to drop you in the first team until you have this team ethos, and everyone buys into it. And that is, for me, that's man management down to a T.
Andy Robertson didn't see the Liverpool first team for 3 months after he joined Liverpool from Hull, and I was like, and I've got to be honest, I was like, what? Like Hull, left back from Hull, and I tell you what a piece of business. I think what Klopp does, and we touched on it earlier, is he trusts his players. He says, go out there, play your game, but work your absolute. Yeah, he always has strategy for press, when to counter press, and all this lot. But he trusts his players. He trusts his players and their ability. He doesn't try and shackle them. He doesn't try and overcoach them. He doesn't.
I don't know. Nothing's a mistake. Nothing's a mistake in the way that they play. Nothing's like, oh, that just happened. So much of what they do is drilled out on the training ground. Some their moves, their attacking style isn't just three. Say, your front three. That's not just three attacking guys going and do and unleashing the Jenga. That it isn't. They practice that week in, week out, and they work out what works, what doesn't, who they're playing, what keys to unlock, when to go over. Because Liverpool aren't afraid to go long. People miss it, don't they?
No, they did today. They turned Andy Robertson to Mane just now. You got to look at a young goalkeeper. He conceded 7 for the under-21s. Then he's playing in the Champions League 4 days later.
And he was brilliant.
And having a game, and he made a brilliant save in that. 2 brilliant saves. And he's just made a few pretty decent saves. There has got to be man management in there somewhere. Yeah. This guy, he looks a fantastic prospect. He really does. And Curtis Jones is starting virtually every game at the moment. So he believes 1,000% of his players. When it doesn't go well, Klopp will always say, that's on me. That's my fault. I prepared them wrong. You'll never, ever, I don't think I've ever heard Klopp say, he'll say we've missed chances, but he'll never name check. He'll never name check an individual player's error. He'll never throw a player. I don't think he's ever thrown a player under the bus. Could be wrong. I'm happy to be corrected by any of you. But to be honest, Solskjaer doesn't. Solskjaer doesn't throw players under the bus. I don't think Moyes would throw a player under the bus. I like Moyes' man management with these young kids coming up in the Championship. Outstanding. You've got to be Moyes has to be an outstanding man manager to a certain extent, because this lad Bowen, and I tweeted about him, he is an outstanding talent. He is absolutely fantastic.
When Moyes was when it was being floated that Moyes was coming back to West Ham, all the players wanted him. So your Declan Rice's, your Antonio, Cresswell, all the players that were there last time when he was around, all wanted Moyes back. So for all the stuff, the fans were disgruntled about Bruno Moyes coming back, despite what he was excellent the first time round with what he got out of Arnautovic and Lanzini that season, and since then, since he's come back, it's been Antonio and Rice that have really shone. But everyone wanted him back.
And these youngsters who are playing for you at West Ham, who've come from the Championship or wherever they come, the lower leagues, so to speak, they're not just playing; they're fearless. Bowen will run at people. He will try and create things. He'll take a game by the scruff of a neck. And this lad, what's the lad you signed from Brentford? What's he called? Big money.
Ben Rama.
He's starting to show. He tried a lovely cheeky little chip. I saw against United.
Yeah, he needs to start now. Really, Ben Rama. We played Finals is a great player. He's a youngster. He never gives up. He's full of spirit. He scored a couple of goals for us this season, but he's missing sitters every game. And actually, if you're taking his 2 chances yesterday, which really that header, everyone knew where it should have gone, the other side of the keeper into the far corner. He's lacking a bit of poise. Ben Rama's one of those that he can unlock. He can unlock defenses. A la Grealish, he can take players on and beat them. He's not afraid to shoot from outside the box. Great player.
Gary, what do you think of Solskjaer's man? Is Solskjaer ruthless enough? Do you think he's a long-term Manchester United manager? Because we're all going on about Klopp and Moyes, but you've got youngsters at you got the likes of Greenwood. Greenwood could not have a better coach in his position. I hated Solskjaer as a player, and that's the biggest compliment I could give him. I think Greenwood and Rashford and Martial, if he pulls his finger out of his arse half the time, Solskjaer could really take them to the next level because he was an unbelievable striker. But as a manager overall, do you think he's a long-term answer for United? With his man management skills, is he ruthless enough to drop people? He's dropped Pogba the last couple of weeks.
Possibly, yes. I think he does what he thinks is right. He sticks by his guns, and that's all you can do. But he does things. No, I hate this. I hate this comment. He does things the Man United way. You don't go out into public and slate your players. You keep it in house. You deal with it behind the scenes. You don't go out and you don't moan about too much about what's going on around you. You just. I know Alex Ferguson played his mind games, but we all know he was just on the wind up. But Solskjaer will just go out. Yep, my player did this. If it's wrong, it's my fault. He's like a calm version of Klopp. Because Klopp's just nuts, isn't he? When he's talking, everyone's listening. He's constantly he's go. Whereas Ollie's sort of sat there going, "Yep, my players," and he says the same things, just in a much more.
I will say that for Solskjaer, he's definitely honest, and he's definitely not. When you've been really fortunate sometimes, I'm not even talking about it. No, do you know what? He did say you got away with one the other day. No, he did. I can't remember what it was when the penalty was given after the full-time whistle. To be fair, Solskjaer said, yeah, got away with one there. So he is honest. Yeah, no, he is completely honest. I haven't heard him come out of an absolute whopper in a press conference yet, to be honest, like a Jose Zanger. No, Solskjaer is an honest manager.
I don't think you'll ever hear him react like Jose does, or he just comes out, says his bits.
The problem is, if you look at every super club in the world, and they've all got these good, and then you get to Manchester United, and you've got Solskjaer, who did well in Norway, didn't do so well at Cardiff, and now wham, suddenly he's at Manchester United. Yeah, he's got Ferguson in the background giving him some advice. Why not? Use him. But can you do better than Solskjaer at the moment? Are you happy with Solskjaer as your manager at the moment?
From history, the more you change the managers, the less you're going to win. Alex Ferguson got 4 years before they were thinking of sacking him. Then we won the FA Cup, and as I say, the rest is history. Jurgen Klopp got 2-3 years before he won the Champions League. And now you're bearing the fruits of it. Yeah, you don't go into a club that's been shaken by Alex Ferguson leaving, and it's going to be fine. It doesn't work.
We did.
You guys waited 30 years for a title.
It's true.
But because this is who you had through the 80s, with your Dalglish and your Shankleys and your Paisley from the 70s through the 80s, and when that stopped.
We never reacted, Gary. And I think Man United were guilty of this to a certain extent with the whole data recruitment. Do you remember everyone laughed at our transfer committee and why Liverpool got a transfer? And now everyone's copying it. We didn't react with Sky when Sky brought the Premier League in. We didn't react. We did not react at all. Manchester United were at the front of the queue, and you will always deserve credit for that. But I think you got caught out a little bit with the changing face of football to a certain extent. When we really started to pick up our transfer dealings, I don't think you changed yours to analytics very quickly. That's how most of our signings came. Was literally it's methodical. Klopp's got into it quite forensic. He almost called it forensic, and I'm not sure Manchester United. Not to the same extent where we fell off a cliff for at least 10 years almost, really, not winning a league, even coming close. But you were in danger of it, and you've kind of steadied the ship now. I'm not sure Van der Beek's going to start too many games for you at the moment. but he could do. I think he's a great little player. I think he's a great little player.
Same as you said, like you need time to settle into a club, new area, new way of living, new way of playing football. New
you
teammates.
need now. You've got Solskjaer there. I reckon you need a clear recruitment plan, and that's what Liverpool didn't have for 15 years. We just did not know how to recruit. We didn't know how football was going to change. Like Anelka or Juve. We went for Juve.
I think,
you know what I mean?
I think, Mark, I think it's a different problem facing United. And I say problem only in, how do you get from where you are at the moment, go to the top level again? Because it's not like, the club's fallen apart. You've got lots of brilliant players and you've got a great youth system with lots of talent coming through. But for me, and I think I've said this in an earlier show, I think you've got a problem with tactics. That was on display yesterday. That tactically, you were regardless of what players were on the pitch, a club of your stature shouldn't be conceding 12 shots on target against West Ham on a Saturday afternoon. But your defence isn't good enough. It's not that your defenders aren't good enough, because when I look at Wan-Bissaka, brilliant defender. When I look at Harry Maguire, one of the first people on the team. I know he has his critics, but he's a very good defender. Ditto Lindelof. You individually great players. Now, I don't know enough about behind the scenes at United to know what's going on with defensive coaching or team coaching, and the synergy between the different departments, how they coach. But what I'm currently seeing, and this isn't this week, this is a general overview of what I'm seeing of United this season, this calendar year, is naivety at the back still that you don't expect from a top side. Some glaring examples would be the Istanbul goal where there was a corner and there was nobody back for it. It was an absolute howler for a top team to make. Do you know what I mean? Hit on the counter a few times like that, and it just looks clunky. But actually, you can only presume the players are doing exactly what they've been coached to do in training. Otherwise, someone would be saying, "You go and stand over there." And so there seems to me to still be a kind of a cultural naivety in the training at the back, not the front, not your forward players at all, but at the back. So defensively, not just your back four, defensively speaking.
Well, that Champions League game, do you remember those 2 goals you conceded in that Champions League game, Gary? Where was it? In Istanbul. One of them was a corner, it was a hoof, and there was no one there. There was no United defenders at all on the halfway line. And Demba Ba was like, oh, okay. Well, and then he was through and he scored. Gary, and then the next goal, we had 4 defenders on 1 attacker and someone else wide open. So
I don't know enough about how that could possibly be, Gary, for a team like Man United. I just can't understand it.
I think that historically, we're an attacking team. That's everyone knows. Yeah. When you get the ball, we go forward, and that I think that's what he wants to bring back the culture we had under Alex Ferguson and Matt Busby before him, with let's get the ball and play attacking football. But that's where Wan-Bissaka and his attacking game's improved over the last 12 months tremendously from what he was when he turned up. Yeah. Alex Tellers is a decent attacking fullback as well. But that might be the issue. They're just trying to focus on going forward. So that, I know, Fred's probably been told to, if the fullback goes, shuffle across and we lose the ball. Or McTominay, whoever's in that role. And it looks like they think that's enough. And that can happen when you've got an attack-minded manager. Jose's a defence-minded manager, so he sits back and plays on the counter-attack. And he focuses on building that foundation. Ollie's a striker. Michael Carrick was a player who wants to go forward. Kieran McKenna was always when he did play before he got injured, but he was a winger. So you've got 3 attackers there, and Mike Phelan in there, who under Alex Ferguson this is how we did things. So that's how it looks to me from watching us play. Yeah. Do
you know what he has got forward at United, mate, Annie? He has got a spine. De Gea, when he wants to be, is still world class. Harry Maguire, he needs pace next to him. I don't think Lindelof is the answer. I think he needs a really quick centre back so Maguire can just play his game and get tight. At the moment, Harry Maguire's kind of stuck in between what he wants to do and what he has to do. Harry Maguire is a good defender, but he needs pace next to him because at the moment United are struggling a little bit with anyone with pace up front. Then you've got, and we were talking about Arsenal, weren't we? They're 11 blokes you'd want your daughter to bring home, but United's midfield's actually pretty robust and pretty in your face. You've got Fred, who isn't great on. He reminds me of Momo Sissoko. Actually, he used to play for Liverpool. Just used to run around tackling everyone, but then he's
Hey? It's your job to tidy up, isn't he? He's the cleaner.
Exactly. You got Matic, nasty, in your face, loves a tackle midfielder. I quite like Matic. I'll be honest. I'm a fan of Matic. So you're spine of your team, and then you've got Bruno Fernandes as the next vertebrae in that spine. World class, absolutely world class. Then you got Rashford, and then you got. I would put Cavani in the spine of the team because I think he will be starting soon, especially with Martial's torn groin, isn't he? He's torn his groin or something. So you've got a spine in United. You've got a spine. You just need to kind of fill out with even more world class talent.
This is what. So Ole's. How long's he been in charge for now? Is it about 18 months or so? Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, I think it'll be 2.
Well, right, so nearly 2 years, and I agree on the thing that they've got a spine, and I agree that United are an attacking side, but so are Liverpool. But you don't, until recently at least, you don't think of Liverpool as being frail at the back despite being that attack-minded team, and you didn't think of Fergie's Man United as being defensively vulnerable. So that, for me, that's something United have really got to shake off because it's visual and teams can sense it. Now, this didn't quite work out for us yesterday, but we had Man United at home. Most West Ham fans thought we were going to win. And by half-time, most West Ham fans thought we were going to win. We didn't, but we thought we would because we beat you last season, we beat you the season before, so on and so forth. And that was unthinkable in the old days of, us beat. It was, once in a blue moon, we beat Man United. It'd be 1-0. After you've had 28 shots and we've had 2 or something like that.
Yeah, I think that foundation's not quite there yet. Lindelof and Maguire are both the same player. They're both just all winners. They're not someone who's going to do that sweeping. They're both a nice version of Vidic.
Maguire's a footballing centre back, but next to him, he does. Well, I think he's all right bringing the ball out. He goes down the channel a little bit. But what he needs next to him, exactly. Maguire needs a shithouse, rock hard defender next to him, so Maguire can then go and play Maguire's game. And the moment Maguire doesn't know whether to stick or twist half the time, I just don't think Lindelof's that good. To be honest, I don't really.
Oh, we're on his day.
I've never really seen it. I've never really seen it with Lindelof. I don't know why. I just never have.
Lindelof, he's always got a mistake in him, and that's the problem.
Exactly.
Which is why I think one of the 2 minds is: do I trust him there to go, or? And the same with Eric Bailly.
He's all or nothing, isn't he? Eric Bailly is absolutely all or nothing. There's no hesitation. He's either going to get the ball first or he's going to help with a bit of tibula in his mouth from the other player. He is all or nothing. Absolutely.
So, Gary, if you had a time machine, Gary, would you go back and keep Johnny Evans? No?
Oh, you wouldn't.
No.
He's doing a cracking job.
You wouldn't like him at the back instead of
Leicester.
Lindelof or Evans?
Yeah, he's doing a good job at Leicester now.
Yeah,
after he went a couple of different places and got a lot more game time.
Yeah,
and now he's what, 30, 31? So he's an experienced defender who's learned his trade at United with Vidic and Ferdinand in front of him, then gone off somewhere else and got game experience, and now Leicester reaping the rewards for his.
I'd say he'd be perfect for United. Does that kill what's his name at Napoli? Calabali, whatever his name. I don't like him. I think he'd be perfect next to Maguire. He'll just do the defending. He'll just.
Yeah, he's another Lindelof.
I must say, Mo Salah does love playing against him. He seems to destroy him every time. So we got 6 minutes left, just to let you know. We've got 6 minutes left.
Right. Thanks for that update, Mark.
Oh, that's all right. I just don't want to get you cut off. I know how much you hate getting cut off, Ali.
I haven't got any more.
Don't let me interrupt you. Sorry, don't let me interrupt.
Did your phone do this?
Don't let me cut you off, mate. Sorry, you say something. Sorry, Al. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, I can talk about Declan Rice for 6 minutes if you want. Other than that, I've got no more topics.
He was good yesterday, wasn't he? He was all right yesterday. But is he nasty enough, Ali? Is he nasty enough?
I tell you what. Let me ask you this: was Bobby Moore nasty enough?
Oh, here we go. We won the World Cup. Yes, you did.
Not about that. Just about the player. Just think about the player, Bobby Moore. Was he a nasty player, and was he nasty enough?
I reckon he did. I reckon he had a nasty.
He wasn't a nasty player at all. He was so clean in a tackle, and Rice barely gets booked in games because he either wins the ball or he pulls out.
Is he doing his job then? If he's a holding midfielder,
well, he plays for West Ham and he's one of the first people on the team sheet for England, so I'd say he's probably doing his job.
I really like him as a footballer, but I think he's trying to maybe be a bit more Mark Noble.
I don't think you're watching him enough then, Mark, because looking at his stats after every game, club and country, more interceptions, more ball wins, and it's what the bit the stats doesn't pick on. It's what he does when he wins the ball is simple, but often is pushing the ball forward. So it's not what's the final ball, but it's the one before. It's the one that puts it out to the winger. But it's perfectly paced, yeah. So his distribution is just superb. He's got eyes in the back of his head. He just always seems to know what's going on.
Will you keep him out the clutches of Chelsea? Though?
No, probably not. I think we might keep him.
They need a midfielder. They got 400 midfielders.
We might keep. Well, we need someone in that position because we haven't got. We've got him and Souček, and that's it. But we'd have to put Snodgrass there because Noble hasn't got the legs anymore. So although we'd have the money from selling him, but
I like that.
Yeah, he'll probably stay in January. But we'd struggle to keep a player of that caliber in the summer because the thing is, he's 21. He's not going to hit his peak for another 4 years if he carries on as he's going. The view from behind the scenes at West Ham is he's about 3 or 4 years ahead of where Frank Lampard was at his age. Now, I'm not saying that every player has exactly the same trajectory. Lampard was a late starter, but what they're saying, the potential is how is this guy not going to be the England captain in 5 or 6 years?
Gary, before we go off air, I want to get your reaction to Jasper's claim the other week that Fred is one of the best in the world, a world-class midfielder at what he does. We all spat out our tea and went, "What?"
We said he's
tiny. Seems to think that Fred is a world-class midfielder.
If you look at his defensive duties,
world class,
I would say he's up there. But when he wins the ball
from
back,
south,
that's what I worry.
The passing is.
His passing is a little bit reckless. He doesn't do these.
Yeah.
He just win the ball back.
He does a job. Every team needs one. Declan Rice is a super footballer, and I think he'll carry on getting better. You're right, Ali. I don't specifically watch West Ham and watch him like you do, obviously. But I just think he maybe needs a little bit of a nasty. And he'll develop that. He's only young, maybe with experience.
He's head and shoulders above everyone else in the club already at 21. We've got some. Is
he only 21 years old? I didn't realise he was only 21.
Yeah. So, you think 21, he's starting every competitive game for England already in centre midfield. How old was Henderson when he got into that position? Maybe, I don't know, but I'm guessing.
He ran funny, according to Fergie.
Pardon?
He ran funny, according to Ferguson.
Yeah, well, he does, but, so what? He Champions League and a league winners medal as captain.
He does run like Donald Duck, I'm not going to lie. But, right, lads, so we got a minute to go. Should we have a prediction for who's going to win the Champions League quickly? We've got 90 seconds. Who's going to win the Champions League?
Oh, Munich.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I think pretty much everyone said Munich last season. It's hard to see a better team than them.
Well, if we get our players back, I think we can win it. I do. I think if we get players back at a certain time, I think we can win it. But yeah, probably by.
I think the beauty of the Champions League is anyone in it, once you get to the quarters, can win it. But it's quality.
Yeah,
I think a dark horse
they
for
got
Chelsea
to
for me.
stay injury free though. I mean, Thiago looked like he picked up a muscle injury, and somebody else they got a couple of muscle injuries yesterday. So be interesting to see if their squad can take a few injuries. But Spurs and Chelsea are really going to be threats on all fronts, I think, this year. Especially when Bale gets going. Bale hasn't even got going yet. He's showed glimpses, but he's a world class talent.
He's another 3 months to match fitness, hasn't he? Golf doesn't quite cut it.
And just to say this on air, Gary, when you join us once, there is a contract where you have to join us every Sunday for the rest of your life. So don't think this is a one-off appearance. If you read the small print, it does say every Sunday for the rest of your life. Just to make that clear. Is that all right? Is that all right, Gary? Gary, you still there?
Yeah.
I don't know, Jeff.
Sorry, my internet
Okay,
dropped off. What was that?
you have a contract to come on every week for the rest of your life now. Nervous lad.
Oh, dear. Well, thank you everyone for listening tonight.